Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk now about lithium, but in a different part of the world, South America. And we'll start with this slide, which basically encapsulates all the major advantages of this project. This is probably the most advanced lithium brine project in the world. In Salta province of Argentina, we already have proven and probable reserves. We completed our feasibility study earlier this year as well. We have enough resource, enough reserves in this case, to produce 24,000 tons of lithium carbonate of battery grade for almost 40 years. And very robust economics. I'll talk about it in more detail later on. The project itself is in Salta province, which is considered one of the probably the most mining-friendly jurisdictions in South America, not only in Argentina. The management team, very strong technically, and we have very strong track record in delivering shareholder value. We'll talk about it as well. And we'll touch on a little bit on the lithium sector, which has been growing and is expected to grow even further in the next few years. And as you can see, we've hit all our milestones on time, under budget in the last 2 years. Basically, we finished the feasibility study. We've proven a very large resource. We've also completed environmental impact assessment report, which was filed with the government. So all the permits are expected to be secured by the end of the year. On top of it, we also signed what we call fiscal stability program with the Argentinian government, which basically fixes all our financial obligations as of the time of application, which was last year. So that means that no matter what changes the government may have, there will be no change in our obligations to the government in terms of taxes or royalties, etc. A little bit about ourselves. My background is basically taking projects at an early stage and developing them through all of the stages to the point when the projects are ready to go into production, or we consummate an M&A transaction depending on the situation. As you can see, a few examples there, mostly in the public domain. Potash companies, uranium company as well. And the business model is pretty straightforward. We want to make sure that we can fund these projects ourselves, but if we do get traction with a potential buyer, then of course we go for M&A. Our technical team is headed by Ian Scarr. Ian has been based in Salta province for the last 10 years. He's worked on 2 major brine projects. He's a geologist by training, and he knows how to operate in this part of the world, so he's the right guy to run the operations there. And then in the bottom, we see 2 Peters, McLean, and Aaron, and Vijay. These are all top-notch experts in their respective fields. We have traditional evaporation process, which I'm going to talk about as well. And these guys are real top experts in each aspect of this process. A little bit about the situation in the market. So demand picture is very robust. No matter how you slice it, we're still looking at a very strong increase in the demand growth. Basically, we're looking at tripling, potential quadrupling of demand between now and 2025. So we're looking at basically between 600 and 800,000 tons of lithium carbonate demand by 2025. The demand is driven obviously by 2 major factors. One is EVs, and the other one, which is not talked about much in the press, and that is energy storage facilities. There's another large demand driver right there. With EVs, as you know, in the next few years, almost all car makers across the board, not only Asian car makers, but also Americans and Europeans, will introduce a large number of EV models. So probably in the next couple of years, we're going to have a lot more selection among EVs than today. On the infrastructure, I'll just try to show you here. Well, this one doesn't show. But anyway, as you can see, there are 2 stars. The one that is in the south, the Pastos Grandes, is our flagship project. Infrastructure-wise, it's probably one of the most favorable locations. Only 230 kilometers from Salta City, which is the provincial capital, 700,000 people, so it's a pretty good-sized city. All other infrastructure elements are within about 50-kilometer radius. So we got power lines, as well as gas pipeline, which is about 30 kilometers away from the project. Very easy to get in and out. As you can see, most of the road is well paved, so we can drive up to about 100 kilometers per hour. And the rest of it is gravel roads, but it's not a donkey road. It's well maintained, wide gravel road as well. A few words about our definitive feasibility study. It was done by Worley Parsons. Again, this was based on traditional evaporation route, meaning that we use evaporation ponds and then processing plant at the end. We can produce 24,000 tons of battery-grade material per year, and the mine life will be about 40 years. As you can see, CAPEX is one of the most manageable, probably $450 million. That already includes a good chunk of contingencies. And OPEX is about $3,400 per ton. Again, one of the lowest in the world. A few pictures just to give you an idea as to where we are and what it looks like. This is our solar power plant. It's a hybrid plant, so we use actually a lot of solar power there. So we want to keep everything as green as possible. And this is our camp that accommodates up to about 70 people. These are our pilot evaporation ponds. When we actually operate full-scale production, this will be much larger. It will be about 10 square kilometers in area. And the white stuff that you see there is not snow. That's all salt, so it's salt plain. Our liming plant and our processing plant, which is under construction as we speak. And we have a little video here. It's not too long. It will give you a very good overview of where we are and what it looks like on site. So this is about 3,800 meters above the sea level, so it's considered very high altitude. Despite that, as I mentioned, the infrastructure is pretty good there, actually one of the best probably compared to our peers in that part of the world. The resource has already been proven. We have enough reserves now to operate for almost 40 years. We have a full team there. A vast majority of our people are locals, meaning are from Argentina proper. Only Ian is from outside of Argentina, but even Ian has been based there for 10 years. We're trying to keep everything, as I said, environmentally friendly. The ponds, and I'll talk about the ponds after the movie, but basically that's a key part of the whole process that allows us to keep our production costs very low compared to, let's say, hard rock, spodumene, and so forth. And this is just a video to show you how we built it. There are two ponds. This is our liming plant. And you can see, as the time goes, as evaporation takes place, the color of the brine changes from greenish to very light blue. That means that the concentration or the grade of lithium in ponds is actually increasing. So the idea is there, obviously, to get to a higher concentration of lithium to about 3% in the ponds, and then we'll push it through the processing plant. We do have fresh water on site, so we don't need to tap into anything else around us, meaning into any above ground water bodies. We do have all the labs and all the other necessary resources on site as well. And the plan is to actually build the entire complex on the site. In other words, we're not going to be building a plant away from Pastos Grandes. Everything will be there, and we will actually produce the end product on site as well. And again, this building is our pilot processing plant, which should start operating early next year. The nearest community is about 12 kilometers away. It's called Pastos Grandes, a small village, about 120 houses. And as you can see, the footprint of the community center that we're building, it's going to be a very large investment by local standards. We're going to be building that community center, which will cost about $500,000. So just briefly, I got a minute and a half. So the process works pretty simply. Again, when I say proven process, that means that it's used by SQM, Albemarle, and Orocobre. So 3 out of 4 producers in South America currently use this process. So basically, you pump the brine into ponds. At the pond level, you get rid of salt and some other elements, including magnesium. Water obviously evaporates, so you get much smaller volume of brine with a higher concentration of lithium in it, and then you push it through a processing plant, whereas you get rid of the rest of the impurities, and the end product in our case will be lithium carbonate of battery grade. As you can see from the schematic, we can also produce potash. Sylvinite is a myriad of potash. We'll have quite a bit of potash in the brine as well. So the plan is to stockpile it initially, and then of course start selling it into the market. A few words about our share structure. 83 million shares outstanding. It's a Canadian company, so pretty tight share structure in that regard. We got $30 million in the bank. The management still owns about 10%, so the capital that we have currently is plenty to go on for quite a few years, as our cash burn is very low now. GCL is a large solar power company out of China. They invested $37 million into the company, so they own 17% of the stock. And we also have a bunch of smaller shareholders, most out of Canada and London, that own between 2 and 4% of the stock. So the plan is basically in the next few months to raise all of the construction capital. We've already engaged Credit Suisse out of their London and Toronto offices to become our lead financial advisor. And the target right now is the first quarter of next year. And if that happens, then it will take about 18 months to build and start operations. And we'll hit our first 10,000 tons of lithium carbonate production probably by early 2022. So time is up. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm in booth number 16. Thanks a lot.